It's estimated that somewhere between 700 million and 1.5 billion years from now, the sun will no longer be able to support human life, by which point Benjamin Šeško still won't have taken his penalty. This is the Arsenal Vision post-match podcast, and it's me, Phil Costa, in the hosting chair for this later than usual episode, but we wanted to cover the Champions League draw, and after sitting through half an hour of ego-tripping, self-important junk involving Zlatan Ibrahimovic and Alexander Ceferin, we have earned that right. Before I introduce today's guests, here's your time to laugh at Manchester United again, after they were knocked out of the EFL Cup by League Two opposition last night. So a round of applause for Grimsby Town, who won 12-11 on penalties with £130 million worth of talent, proving that they couldn't do it on a wet and windy night in Lincolnshire. At least they won the We Played Better Than Arsenal trophy on match day 1. But that's enough of that. Joining me for today's episode, I've got Tim Stillman. Hello, Tim.
Hello there.
How's it going? You got your tactics board out yet?
No. But all good, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, you might know my second guest, who was a late arrival after pretending to have a real job, and that's Elliot Smith, who you should still definitely block on social media. Hello, Elliot.
I like this conceit that I am going to be the guest today, since I'd already asked you if you were available to host. I'm going to do everything in my power to do what a guest on this pod normally does. Not follow the format, not answer the questions, wreck the flow, completely ignore what you've asked, and say whatever's on my mind, including that I want to know what is the podcasting equivalent of a little plastic tactics board with little magnets that I can move around to try to improve my performance. What would be the podcasting equivalent of that?
Just have SofaScore on a tab next to Riverside, and then we'll go from there, looking at
Mate, you've just exposed all my ball knowledge. There it goes.
Exactly. Well, it's the green bars or SofaScore, right? So it has to be one or the other. I mean, look, nothing like a bit of role play to keep things fresh. Is that sweet Schadenfreude still coursing through your veins? I did enjoy your little podcast this morning when I woke up.
Yeah, I had to do a Schadenfreude after the Grimsby Town victory. There were so many neat little things about it. The tactics board, Amorim asking to be sacked in the post-match interview, the Grimsby Town keeper saying he was half annoyed because he's a United supporter, Benjamin Šeško, as you pointed out, letting 9 of the 10 outfield players go before him in the penalty shootout. Well done for a £75 million striker. He also lost the most duels in the match and had the fewest touches of any outfield player that played 90 minutes. So that was great. I will let people know, by the way, though, that we'll have Friday Night Clive tomorrow over on the Patreon. So we'll be talking about the Champions League draw with Clive and looking ahead to Anfield as well. And I'm going to have Jim Daly from the FYP pod, which is a good Palace pod. And he's not just a great podcaster and Palace fan, but also a professional comedian. So I look forward to finally having someone funny on one of these podcasts. He'll be talking Ebreche Eze, and he seems quite excited to do that. So I'm excited to talk to him. That'll be over on the Patreon as well.
Perfect. Are we sticking with Eze now? I think that's what we're doing.
I've been told to say it that way. So he says it that way.
He says it that way.
I was defaulting to Eze, and people said, hey, mate, now that he's said how he wants it said, you got to say it how he wants it said. And I do think that we do this. We do this thing where we decide that for some people, but not for others, right? We never went with Bellerin or anything like that. But Eze, let's be respectful to the man that I adore, whose name and number is now on the back of a shirt for the first time of mine in years, and say it, Eze.
Perfect. We'll stick with Eze then, because I was watching those the clips of the Premier League players announcing or pronouncing their names, and the Christian Norgard one I'm not even going to bother with because I would just sound like an absolute mug if I try that. So sorry to him, but we'll stick with Eze, and I think we'll start with the Champions League draw. And I don't think we should spend too much time on this because we've got obviously more pressing things to chat about, but it's worth covering because we know who we're going to be playing now, even though we don't know when we're going to be playing them yet. I'll just run through the teams quickly. It's Bayern at home, Inter away, Atletico at home, Club Brugge away, Olympiacos at home, Slavia Prague away, Kairat Almaty at home, and Athletic Club away. So face value, I think that's all right. I think it looks good. Inter away is a little bit boring, and they're always strong at San Siro, although a new manager coming in, maybe that'll affect things a little bit. Christian Kivu is not Simone Inzaghi, that's for sure. But there's been a bit of a malaise at Atletico so far this season, and I'd back us at home against them, I think. Bayern's fun. What's a Champions League group phase without Bayern? And Olympiacos as well. I mean, those two are just intrinsically linked. So Tim, I'll go with you first. Does anything jump out to you there? Any tasty ties? Any opponents you're interested to see in the flesh?
I mean, I'll always look out for the away ties, even though I don't do them quite as much anymore. So fingers crossed for Bilbao. that's a place I've never been and really been wanting to go. Brugge as well. I think the allocation is going to be quite small for Brugge, so I don't think I'll get a ticket for that. And by the way, I've heard, speaking of pronunciations, I've heard varying things on that, depending on, I think, which language you speak. I don't know whether it's Bruges or Brugge. But so, take your pick there, take your shots, everyone. But I think a decent draw, particularly we're in pot 2, so you're going to get 2 pot 1 teams. So that's really kind of the crux of the draw. And I think we could have done worse for the away game than Inter. Certainly not going to be easy. We didn't win it last year, but that's really your pot 1 away game is really going to be the one that you've got your eyes on. Bayern at home, I guess a pretty tasty tie, albeit we seem to see it every other year. But I'm also really, really glad that we didn't get. This is where my brain fog is going to kick in. The team that's on the border of China, who we have at home and not away, is it Kairat?
Kairat Almaty.
Kairat, that's it.
Yes.
Yes. Pretty glad we didn't get them away, quite frankly. They've drawn Sporting Lisbon away, which I think is going to be the longest distance European tie ever, maybe. But yeah, I guess on one hand, you could have looked at pot 1 and said, could we have got something a little less maybe repetitive than Bayern? Olympiacos at home as well. If you've been watching Arsenal in the Champions League for 10 years or more, you've seen those ties before. But at the same time, when you look around the Champions League, that happens a lot. Real Madrid have got shock, Liverpool and Manchester City again. And then who do we get out of pot 4? Kairat and...
Athletic.
Bilbao.
Yeah. That's. I think that's a really nice tie, actually, because I don't know how we've avoided them for so long. Actually, I certainly don't remember in my lifetime us ever playing them in any kind of stick of European competition. So I think that one might be the one I'm kind of most excited about, just because it's a little bit more unknown. If you've never been able to get a ticket for an Arsenal game before, Kairat, I'm telling you now, you'll be able to get your whole family in there, quite frankly.
Yeah, but they're going to make it a category A. You're going to have to pay full fare.
The ticket exchange for that one, I mean, it's going to be busy in one direction, and that's going to be people putting them on the ticket exchange. Not sure people will be snapping them off, but no, I think Athletic away, that's one I'm looking at, both from a football perspective and hopefully from a travel perspective as well.
Yeah, I mean, a fun one to travel, an amazing culture of people there, amazing food. Also a nice little derby day for Mikel Arteta, Mikel Merino, Martin Zubimendi. There's a lot of Basque beef in that fixture, so that should be good. Elliot, what's your overall feeling on the draw, and which away day will you and Clive eventually end up at before muffling through an instant reaction at the ground?
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest. You got to circle Bilbao when you see it. It depends when it happens, and obviously these draws and the reaction to these draws is going to differ significantly once we see where the fixtures fall. But yeah, who wouldn't want to go to Bilbao? I mean, Bruges is another one that I would definitely be excited about. But as Clive instructed to me, he said that's actually more of a beer drinking away day, and anyone who knows me knows that doesn't satisfy my my alcohol consumption style. Although, I could try a Trappist ale or one of those kind of things. So I could be talked into it. Let's put it that way. Those are the 2 away days that stand out for me. There's some interesting stuff here. Obviously, we played Athletic Club in preseason. They didn't put much of a scare into us, but that's not super representative of what they could be. I think you need 5 wins and a draw to be in the top 8, which is where we want to be. And looking at this, Slavia Prague, Kairat Almaty, Olympiacos, Bruges, and Athletic. If you can get your 5 wins there, draw one of Atleti, Inter, or Bayern, you're good. So I think we're in pretty good shape. I mean, you compare this around to what's out there. We avoid PSG, we avoid Real Madrid, we avoid Barcelona. Those are 3 I would have preferred not to play. Obviously, we don't have to play any of the English sides, which is always handy. And I think you wanted one of those Paphos or Kairat Almaty clubs right from pot 4. We get Almaty and we get it at home. And depending on when it falls, if it falls late enough in the league table phase where we know we're in pretty good shape, that's when you could break out the Max Dowman, break out the Ethan at 8 and, really mix things up a little bit and maybe have the chance for some rotation. So I think it's a nice, balanced, doable league phase where the only question is, can we get the 16 points we need to be in the top 8?
Yeah, I think when you put it like that, it is achievable for Arsenal. I mean, selfishly, I would have been interested in the Barcelona away because that's just around the corner from me. Olympiacos away as well. I've got a friend in Athens who I could have couch surfed with. Even Bafos away that you mentioned. My grandma's got a house in Cyprus, so look, tickets would have been on me. Everyone would have been around my house if that was the case. But yeah, I think in terms of who it could have been, I think we've done okay. And like we said, maybe a little bit repetitive in terms of buying into Olympiacos, Atleti. We've played them a few times as well, but overall I'm quite excited about that. So yeah,
you know what
ready
I like?
to get European football underway, I think.
Yeah, Phil, just two things. One thing that I like is I don't, and you could correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't see any plastic pitches in December kind of situations here, or long 5-hour, 6-hour flights. So these do look like manageable away days, good pitches, reasonable weather. It should be the kind of games that you can go play without those kind of concerns. And then I just do look at Inter away as sort of that interesting measuring stick, because it was Inter away last season, where even though we lost on sort of a dodgy handball penalty, I thought we played really well. I thought that built up some of our confidence in European competition, that we could go to the San Siro and sort of, I think, really dominate and take the game to a top Champions League team, where we started to feel like we were coming of age a bit in that competition and maybe built some confidence. I'll be really curious to measure us against that when we go back there this year, and can we take that next step to win at the San Siro, which we've done before and hopefully we'll do again. So those are my two other thoughts.
Fingers crossed. So yeah, good stuff. That's the Champions League draw. We do also have the small matter of a trip to Anfield on Sunday, and it's fair to say we've struggled away from home against Liverpool over the past decade. I mean, we need to go back 13 years for a win in 2012 when Abu Diaby went Super Saiyan alongside a certain Mikel Arteta in midfield, Lucas Podolski and Santi Cazorla on the score sheet, of course. However, this is a very different Arsenal, and our recent record is much better. We've drawn our last 3 games there and are far more equipped to deal with big teams away from home in terms of our physicality, defensive ability, but also our own quality as well. I think we can hold up much better when we go away from home. We haven't lost against the traditional Big Six team in 22 games, which is incredible, really, considering just how bad we were for the best part of 10 years under mostly Arsene Wenger and then obviously Unai Emery and the early stages of Mikel Arteta, but it wasn't great. So Tim, I know it's only been 2 games and teams are still figuring themselves out, how to play with new signings, getting fit, but what have you made of Liverpool so far? Has anything surprised you? Has anything not? And what are your sort of initial first feelings going into the game on Sunday?
So I'm not massively surprised by Liverpool in that maybe some of the wrinkles that they have at the moment, which we'll go into, but I always felt that basically last season they won the league with Klopp's team. I know they slightly changed their style, but that was Klopp's team. They did nothing last summer in terms of the market. And so it always felt to me like this felt like Slot's first proper season with his own signings, and particularly with some players going out, losing Trent. How are they going to replace that creativity? Obviously, it looks like they're going to replace it in other areas of the pitch, but at the same time, Trent giveth and taketh away. Have they fixed that? Because Trent, obviously you pay a defensive price, but he gives you so much in terms of creativity. They're not going to get that same creativity from right back. They'll still get it, not from Frimpong on Sunday, obviously, but generally speaking, he will provide for them, but in a very, very different way. But have they really improved defensively there? I don't think so far. I do think Szoboszlai looked pretty good, actually, at right back against Newcastle on Monday night, but Liverpool are leaving holes. And I think what's grabbed me I've watched all 3 of their games so far, really, if you count the Community Shield. They've conceded 2 goals every time. They've lost 2-goal leads twice, I think. And they've played well in spells in those games, but for quite short spells, I think. I think generally against Bournemouth, it's too much to say they were under the cosh, but I don't think they were very impressive in that game at all. And in Newcastle, they probably played well for about 10-15 minutes. The issue is that in all those little tiny periods of the game where they've played well, they've scored twice, basically. Like Newcastle, they go 2-0 up out of nowhere. And to be fair, I think that first goal by Gravenberch is really, really kind of is set up for them when they're under pressure. They just had a little 2-minute period where they just kept the ball. And I think that's something that slots Liverpool is going to be able to do very well. I do think they're going to be more open. They look much more open, particularly behind their fullbacks. I'm talking about Trent. I mean, Kirkes has not looked good to me at all so far, and it's a real shame Saka's not going to get a go at that. But something's very different for us this season. Madueke coming in, like that's not the same as Saka, but that's much closer than we've ever got ever since Saka's come into the team. So I think we have some counter-attacking threat as well this time, and that makes us a bit better set up. I think last season, we really got pinned back, and our strikers in this fixture last season, even though we came from 2 goals down, were Merino and Martinelli. So we had 2 makeshifts. That's hopefully not going to happen this time. And we're, even if Liverpool get on top for that 10-15 minute period, I'm a bit more confident that we've got something going the other way in Gyökeres, maybe Eze as well. I think we just look much better set up to counter on Liverpool, which I think is a weakness for them. And I think Anfield for us is like the last feels like the last boss for Mikel Arteta. Like Old Trafford, we won a couple of times, not hugely convincingly, but we've got 7 points from our last 9 there. So that doesn't feel like as big a thing anymore. And, one by one, I think we've broken down a lot of these, but winning at Anfield really feels like the last boss for Mikel Arteta. And I think that would really it's too early to say set us up for the season, but it'd be a very, very kind of nice little bump, that's for sure.
Yeah, you're right to kind of highlight that issue we've had at Anfield. It wasn't the same as it was with those teams that used to run through us with Salah and Mane and Firmino and whoever else it was just storming us, even Luis Suarez and Sturridge and those sorts of teams. But how many nightmares did we have conceding from our own corner at Anfield? It's just stuff that we need to move beyond. And even, I think it was the early stages under Arteta, we had like Sambi playing there and Nuno Tavares, and we gifted them a couple of goals. There was one I remember in particular with Jota where Tavares just gave him the ball and then Ramsdale went flying. So I think you can see in recent years we're a lot more serious, a lot more physical, a lot more ready. You're absolutely right to highlight the issue with Kirkes, though. I think he has been a weak point for them so far, and it's still very early. He needs to adjust to a new back four. They're adjusting to him, but he's not Andy Robertson already. That's not going to happen overnight. And Elliot, is that something that you'd like to see Arsenal exploit? Whether it's, I'm not going to say whether it's, I think it will be Noni Madueke playing on the right, but do you think as a right-sided team with a strong right-sided bias, we need to be looking over there again?
Yeah, I mean, that seems to be the vulnerability for them, although I think it's a vulnerability if you go at it quickly, more directly over the top, in a counterattacking style, as opposed to settled possession and attacking that side when they're in more of a low block or in a compact shape. The hard thing with a team having only played 2 games, right, is you don't know how much to weight any of the individual performances, but let's just say it. They were absolute crap against Newcastle. Like, they were just really bad. And it's hard because I think in our minds, we think Liverpool are going to be good again. They have the talent to be good again, and they're going to go for the league. And they won the game. But against 10-man Newcastle, they had no shots from the 46th to the 100th minute. None, not a single shot. And were really shitting themselves up 2 goals against 10-man Newcastle with no striker and their best player having been sent off with an act that can only be described as stupidity. So, I don't know what to tell you about this team, because that performance, if that's their level, there should be no fear factor. Not that they can't beat you, but that we should be able to go trouble them. And Slot gave a little of the game away, I think, too, sort of complaining that, it was just set piece after set piece. It wasn't football. Well, mate, if you're scared of set pieces, let me tell you something. We're prepared to go play set piece football against you. So we should be taking dead ball situations seriously. We should be putting the ball into their box. We should be taking long throws. We should be playing for corners. And I know people will roll their eyes at that, but if that's something Liverpool don't enjoy and don't want to be doing, then by all means we should do it. Now, having said that, I think they are uniquely special at flowing forward from their own defensive set piece situations. There's something about the way Liverpool break, the speed with which they break, But then again, I think a lot of that was centered around Trent too, whose delivery in those kind of situations was unique. And we know we got hurt in a similar kind of situation, a change of possession last season at the Emirates. Trent got just that 1 extra second on the ball, and boom, they're in behind and Salah scoring. So for me, Phil, though, the story of this is a tale of two left backs. Can we exploit Caracas on their left side of their defense? And who do we send out on the left side of our defense to cover up Salah? And that's going to be a big, big call for Mikel.
Yeah, we'll get onto that in a bit, but I'll stick with you, Elliot, and I would say a lot was made of a lot was made of our schedule, but I actually think it might be better to play the big teams early doors, especially away from home, because results don't feel so fatal. And if things are getting a bit tastier towards the end of the season, there feels like a bit more jeopardy on the line, a true 6-pointer. And let's be honest, if you're in April and you're going to play a title decider, you want to play Liverpool at home or City at home. Do you agree with that? And is it the end of the world, for example? I'm not saying we should aim for a point or to lose the game, for example, but would it be the end of the world if we didn't get the result that we wanted, because there's plenty of time to rectify it later on?
I mean, we have gone to Anfield and won the league there, needing a 2-goal win, which we got quite famously. But yeah, I think there's some advantage to that. I think the problem is the advantage of when the fixtures happen is largely reliant upon factors that you can't know until that time. Fitness, the biggest among them. What other competitions are you in, right? Do we want to play Liverpool at the Emirates late in the season if we're 2 points behind them, have massive injuries, and a Champions League semifinal the 3 days after? No, that changes the calculus, right? So we can't figure out those things. The interesting thing in this situation is injuries are going to be a factor for both teams. We're without Saka, we're without Kai. We likely could be without Odegaard, although I'm not sure. I think he might start. No Ben White. They may be playing Soboslai at right back or Curtis Jones. I don't think they can have Isak in time for that game, is my hope. Although I still think they're going to get him. So yeah, I think the timing of it is good in the sense that whatever happens in this game, we can recover from it. But I think the pressure's on Liverpool in the sense that if we lose at Anfield, it's just them holding serve. If they fail to win at Anfield, it feels like we've landed an early blow in a title race in a season where they've yet to look convincing, especially if they concede a few more goals. So I'm inclined to see it as advantage us going there this early, and whatever we can get from this game can be a stepping stone for us to go on and make a proper title charge.
Yeah, it's definitely delicately poised. I mean, like Liverpool, we go into the game with 2 wins from 2, but as you said, slightly underpowered because we're going to be without Kai Havertz, Bukayo Saka, probably Ben White, and we're still not sure yet with Martin Ødegaard. I mean, obviously we had the Havertz news today, but it just feels quite typical and a bit of a shame that we're approaching only our 3rd game of the season and we're already missing 3 or 4 key players. But I think it's clear that we are in a good place to offset those absences with our new signings and recently sort of vamped up squad depth, which I think is really good. If the listeners don't know already, it was reported today via Ornbom that Havertz will undergo surgery on his knee issue, although a lengthy absence is not expected. That was the phrasing used by David Ornstein, and it was stressed again in the article that it's not a major procedure. So we still don't know what the exact issue is, so I'm not going to speculate, but they obviously decided that surgery was the best course of action. To me, this feels a bit like the Saka news in that it's far from ideal, but I'd much rather have him fit and available for all of these games. But if he is going to be out, I can stomach a short absence while he recovers properly, and we don't have to rush him back with other options sort of not sort of meeting the mark. So I'm quite comfortable that we can go there with Madueke, with Eza, with Gyökeres, with Martinelli, and still be good enough to get something. Although it is a bit of a shame, especially because he worked so hard to get back, fitter and stronger from the hamstring injury. Just a quick one on Havertz, Tim. Obviously, it is a shame that we're going to be missing him, but would you rather he was treated properly and efficiently as opposed to being able to rush him back through desperation?
Yeah, definitely. I think as soon as I heard that they're debating whether he has surgery or not, I'm no medic, but my instinct is always that sounds like surgery is an inevitability at some stage. It's just a case of, do you do it now or does he play on it for a bit and then it happens in December or something like that? Like, I think once that word comes up, it's probably going to happen at some point. And if it was
Tim,
March...
wasn't it Ben White? Was it even last summer where we thought he could get the surgery he needed? We decided to wait and see, and he wound up having to get it months later, and then it just cost him basically the whole season.
Exactly that. So, maybe if it was March or something, it's something that they might go, okay, hang in there till May, and well, it's World Cup year, so maybe not. But yeah, I think it's probably in everyone's interests, and particularly this early in the season. And as I said on the last pod, it perhaps gives Gyökeres a chance to really play there, really stake that claim. And get the team used to him and him get used to the team and all of that. I do think Havertz is a significant miss. I think we're all in, understandably, I think we're all in shiny new toy phase at the moment. We got some new toys to play with, so we don't really, it's like, is Havertz out? And a lot of people will see it, and I don't think incorrectly, as linked to the Eze signing, and therefore even, and I think this is an understandable perspective, by the way, might even say, well, actually, that's probably worth it if that really did kind of force Arsenal to push the boat out, which I think it must have been a contributing factor. But I think he's a really important player for Arteta's Arsenal. I do think with the depth we've got now, he shouldn't be as important as he was last season, just by dint of numbers. I do think that if Havertz was fully fit, he'd start this game ahead of Gyökeres. And look, maybe if we are going to do a bit more counter-attacking, maybe Gyökeres is better for this game. I still strongly suspect that Havertz would have started it, maybe even finished it in that kind of left 8 position as well. And I suppose that's something that gets taken away from us as well. I thought we were going to see a lot of Havertz playing, and maybe inside a game he'll play number 9 and he'll play number 8, like depending on substitutions, and that's potentially something we've lost. But then we've got Eze who can move inside a little bit and play as a left 8 if we really want him to. So again, there's kind of options there to cover for it. I do think it's a real shame. I had a really good, and still do have a really good feeling about Havertz this season. I do think, the extent to which he's transformed his body, I don't know exactly how that specifically is going to help him. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. But I always think when I see that in a player, you just think this player means business, because what they've done is they've used their absence for something. They haven't just sat there and gone, I'm out, I'll just do my rehab till I get back. That's someone who's thought about, okay, what can I do to really use this time properly? And I always think that's a really, really good sign in a player. So I think it's really, really unfortunate, but we should be able to deal with it. And I do feel similarly about Saka, who, don't get me wrong, is a bigger miss, but we should have the depth now. I kind of think we've gone from one extreme to the other in a squad building sense. And actually, maybe this is a conversation for another time, I actually fear a bit of redundancy this season and a slight bit of overcorrection, but maybe we can talk about that later with the defence.
Yeah, I mean, it is a shame with Havertz, because for me now his role in the squad is almost like an Allen key, is that he can play as the centre forward, he can play as a number 8, he can play in a strike partnership potentially if we're going for a win late on. He can do a lot of good things away from home as well. I'm not saying that Gyökeres can't do it, but we've become quite familiar and comfortable with the way that Havertz helps us away from home, especially from set pieces, both offensive set pieces and defensive set pieces. I think he does a lot of good work battling the centre-backs, whereas Gyökeres will be the type of guy that looks to spin and run in behind a lot more. So that might affect how Arsenal look to play this game. It might affect how Arsenal look to play in his absence in general. And Elliot, there's so much else to be decided when we need to think about who's going to play and who's going to start in this game. I think the spine of the team more or less picks itself. Raya, the 2 centre-backs, Zubimendi and Rice will be in midfield. Obviously, Gyökeres will play up front. But on the sides, there's a few decisions to make. I think at right back, at left back, on both wings, we've got decisions to make. Although I think maybe on the right, Madueke is more or less nailed on to start there. Are there any sort of contentious or key decisions in terms of the lineup, and who would you lean towards in those areas?
Oh, I think there's a ton of them. Yeah, I think there's a lot of really contentious and key decisions, and some influenced by injuries that we may not even totally have all the answers about. I think there's a very interesting and exciting opportunity to pick a very pacey, powerful running front three and play a bit more on the counter. Leave ourselves less exposed to getting hit the way Liverpool like to, finding Salah in space over the top. All of a sudden, everyone's flooding into the box late, and Salah's got options. If we're a little more compact, we know they're going to struggle with that a bit, and we're quite comfortable that way. Martinelli, Gyökeres, and Nani Madueke running into the spaces that Szoboszlai or Connor Bradley or Curtis Jones, whoever it is, Curtis Jones, like playing right back, and Kerekes, who's been vulnerable at left back, big switches, big hits into those spaces for Martinelli and Nani to run onto, and Gyökeres arriving with his powerful running. Gyökeres can attack that left channel. He likes to run there. And, Konate looked very uncomfortable against
He was lucky not
Newcastle.
to be sent off, in my opinion.
I agree he was lucky, not with straight red, but with the second yellow, the push in the back.
Yeah.
Which would have been borderline straight red for Dog. So anyway, but yeah, I agree. So there's an opportunity to do that. Now, some people would say, and what, not play Eze? Well, this is the tricky thing. This is going to be a chess match. This is going to be as elite a tactical battle as they come. And Eze will have had, 4, maybe 5 training sessions. So it's not that I don't think he's match fit. He's match fit. It's not that I don't think he has the quality. But is he completely at home and ready tactically? The other issue is, are you going to play him on the left to help protect potentially Calafiori on the left? That to me feels like a possible big day for Salah brewing. So the big question on the left, obviously, is who's going to play left back and who's going to protect that pocket of space. If you start Martinelli, you've got really good help defense, so maybe you can play Calafiori and let him raid. My ideal scenario is that we do what we've seen Mikel do before. Use his best 1v1 defender over on Salah. He used to do it with Tomiyasu, get Timber over there. Problem is you can't get Timber over there without White unless you think 20-year-old Christian Mosquera is going to get his full debut at Anfield. I think he could handle it. I'd put it this way. I'd rather take my chances with Mosquera on Gakpo than Calafiori on Salah, I think. I don't know. So this is going to be tricky for Mikel because is Odegaard fit to start? If not, do you bring Eze into midfield and move Rice? Or do you trust Ethan in this situation? Do you play Martinelli, who's got the running power and the defensive recovery? Or do you let Eze take his proper place as one of our best players on the left side? Do you want to move Timber or leave him over there? And if you don't move Timber, do you go with the more maybe defensively strong Miles? Or do you continue to use Calafiori, who's been raiding? Phil, I think this has to be the biggest number of difficult to answer questions around lineup and approach that we've had in a big game in a long time. Now, that's exciting because in part it means Slot won't necessarily know what's coming. But it also means I think that whatever that lineup is on Sunday, I guarantee you we're probably going to be surprised by some of it. Do you see it as being that open and hard to predict?
Well, I mean, you used the word difficult there, but I think it's really good.
Yeah.
I think it's great that we have these options, and I can't disagree with your logic about moving Timber. I just think I would stick to what we've been doing because I think Calafiori has been offering us a lot in the forward thirds, in the final third. He's had a key role in a few goals already that we've scored this year. And in terms of Eze, I would leave him on the bench, and I'm not saying he wouldn't be ready for it, and I'm not saying he wouldn't be capable of causing Liverpool damage or even doing the defensive work. It's just that I know that Martinelli can do it, and it's not an if. Whereas for now, it's an if with Eze. He doesn't know the pressing triggers. He might not know the collective structure that we like to be in terms of our rest defense, in terms of our mid block. So I completely get why you'd look to protect Calafiori a little bit more, but we haven't even entertained the idea of a more traditional midfield three with Mikel Merino coming in maybe and playing alongside Declan Rice and Zubimendi. I don't think people would like that, but it gives us 3 more typical midfielders in there as opposed to putting an Eze or an Ethan in. Although my opinion is that Odegaard will be fit. I think there's a bit of chicken going on here with the training pictures and stuff like that. But I think it's really cool that we have these options. And if we also need to change the game, I'd be more than happy to bring Ethan on. I'd be more than happy to bring Eze on. So we need to set up with Liverpool in mind, but also not put it too far in the other direction that we don't think about how we can cause Liverpool issues. And I think now that we've got a good squad, we've got a lot of quality, we can really find a nice balance there, even though I think in the past Arteta has maybe been scarred a little bit by Anfield. And that's sort of come out in the performances, in the team selections. I think we are more than good enough to go and have a go at them, especially with some of the frailties that I've been seeing so far this season.
Marino
Can I
scored.
just add one thing to that?
I was going to
Sorry,
say
go ahead,
Marino
Tim.
scored home and away against Liverpool last season. So
He did. Yeah.
Yeah,
The
I mean,
remontada.
the only thing I'd say, right, so there's a principle like in the NFL, for example, and if there's been one popular thing about this podcast down the years, it's been any time that I invoke an NFL analogy. So I want to make sure that we get that in here early. There's this concept where if like a team has a great wide receiver, right, like a superstar wide receiver, you get two defenders to cover that wide receiver, and the principle is you say, we're going to let the other guy beat us. If the other scrub beats us, fine, but we're not going to let the star beat us. We're not going to let that happen. And there is a part of me that thinks, like, if we go Eza on the left with Calafiori at left back, and Salah just finds tons of space and has 2 goals and an assist, and we're sitting there at the end of the day going, yep, Salah killed us, I'm going to be frustrated. Because in my mind, I'm going to be like, that's the thing you don't let happen. You know what I mean? If Gakpo has a brilliant game, if Ekitike scores from outside the box, like, they've got talent. They can beat you. If is McAllister fit? Probably not. But, if they...
I'm not sure. I'm not sure about McAllister.
If they get some kind of great goal for someone, fine. But I don't know that I certainly don't want to be looking at that game going, could we have just locked down Salah a little bit more? So that's the thing. And I do think given the issues they have at fullback, you could use Martinelli. You could even use Timber over there if you find a way to do it and just hit those big switches and big long balls into Martinelli and Nani Madueke running in behind and really give their second backup right back and Karakesh fits all day long.
I will say a good omen. Eze has had 2 or 3 unbelievable performances at Anfield recently with Mateta and Ismail Assar and Wilfred Zaha, and also last season Noni Madueke gave Kirkes a terrible time at Stamford Bridge and Andy Robertson a terrible time at Anfield. So
love it.
Maybe this is the way. I mean, we've got options, and I think the real 4D chess play here is to play Christian Mosquera at left back. No, I'm joking. But yeah, I mean, Tim, where are you leaning in terms of these key decisions? Are you going to go rogue on us here, or are we speaking a bit of sense?
No.
No, okay.
I suspect that at left back it will be Calafiori. How he plays might alter a little bit in terms of, pick your moments a little bit more. Maybe Declan Rice is a little bit more conservative, kind of going around the back, but I still think he'll play. Actually, not least because like Salah's very static, even more so nowadays, and it's almost, I mean, obviously it's a little bit double bluff, but like they're going to be playing probably Szoboszlai at right back, and Salah's not really going to come back and help, and they don't really have like Jordan Henderson anymore in that kind of right channel, so like they've become like a lot more open there, I think. And so we could look at it as a weakness of Liverpool and say, well, actually, we've got the tools to go for them there. I think Eze will and should start on the left, not least because of what you say, Phil. He's generally had a good time at Anfield, and if we're going to be a little bit more counter-attacking, I think, stack stars on stars. Like, right, they've got Salah on the right. Let's put Eze on the same side and go, okay. You've got a winger that's not going to track and a central midfielder at right back, and we're gonna come at you with that. And we might not necessarily want to dominate the ball. We might do it like in broken play. So, and Calafiori, I think in broken play is really, really strong. But largely, I mean, how shocked would I be if it was like Timber at left back? Not shocked, but surprised. I think generally what managers do is they go with their guys. But like I say, maybe, because Calafiori is not a bad defender. It's not like he's not Zinchenko. It's not like if Salah gets him listen, Salah can beat anyone one-on-one, but I wouldn't necessarily look at Calafiori and go, oh, he can't do it one-on-one. The issue is not him as a defender. It's where is he? Because we ask him to do certain things, which we ask all of our left backs to do. There's always that's always a bit of a wild card for us. So, I just still expect it to be Calafiori, maybe with Rice a little bit more tucked in, and particularly if you've got Eze on the left, who I think is going to be more of a threat than probably Martin. I mean, Trossard's a different type of threat, arriving in the box, but I mean running with the ball, going past you and curling one in the bottom corner. Eze's a much bigger threat at that than either Martinelli or Trossard at the moment. So, yeah, I expect us to kind of do that. But I am with you, Phil, on if I do think Odegaard will probably be fit. But if he's not, I do think it will be Marino, actually, at least to kind of start the game. And particularly with their kind of issues with set piece defending, and we don't have Havertz, then I think Marino's probably quite a good analogue for that, actually.
Elliot's fuming about that, by the way. I can see the smoke just coming out of his ears. Yeah.
Who, me? Come on, man. I have no opinion on it whatsoever.
Yeah, so I mean, unless you've got anything else to add, we can segue to some ads, because otherwise I'll be on the naughty step if we go too long. So, Elliot, if you want to take it away from here.
Phil, you're doing a bang-up job in the hosting chair, I can't lie, but leave this to me, because if you want to watch all the hysterical memes and reactions that are geo-locked, and Jamie Carragher having a meltdown after the game, after Liverpool have lost at Anfield, and then you click, and everyone's going, you got to see this video, and you click, and it says, not available in your area. Well, it is if you have NordVPN. NordVPN's a VPN. You put it on your computer, you put it on your iPad, or your Android tablet, or your phone, whatever phone you have. It's just an app. You say, I want to browse in this region, and boom, now you can watch that video of Jamie Carragher saying some absolute nonsense about why it was unfair that they lost, even though they lost 10-0. So it is going to allow you to watch things that are not available in your area. It is going to allow you to sign up for streaming services that might be less expensive when you sign up in another area, or even watch shows that haven't come out in your region yet. Plus, it has threat protection. So get NordVPN. We're going to give you a really good value, a discount off the normal NordVPN plan, plus 4 months on top and 30 days risk-free. So NordVPN.com/ArsenalVision. That's NordVPN.com/ArsenalVision. NordVPN.com/ArsenalVision. Do it now. And also, this is a paid advertisement for BetterHelp. BetterHelp isn't online therapy. It's therapy that happens to be online. And no matter how many times I say it, it will continue to be true. Therapy is important, and everyone who has the opportunity should engage in therapy. We should regard it as being part of a healthy lifestyle, the same way we do eating right or exercising, right? This is something that can help you overcome challenges in your life professionally, personally, to get rid of that thing that's just stuck in your head, tearing away at you. You know, I find sometimes something's eating at me, but I can't even tell what it is. Therapy helps you get to the root of that. So can you get in a car? Can you drive to an office? Do you have the time to do that? Do you have the resources to do that? Well, if you don't, BetterHelp's a great solution. You can do it right from the comfort of your own home, right online. Find the therapist that fits your needs and fits your budget. So with over 5,000 therapists in the UK already, BetterHelp is the world's largest online therapy platform. And as the largest therapy provider in the world, BetterHelp can provide access to mental health professionals with a diverse variety of expertise. Talk it out with BetterHelp. Our listeners get 10% off their first month at BetterHelp.com/vision. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/vision. And last but certainly not least, do you have something to sell? Art? Maybe it's something you make. Maybe it's baked goods. Maybe it's merchandise, whatever it is. The key to having an ability to succeed at the business you want to start is that when someone wants to buy the things you have, they know where to find you, and what they find is a professional looking e-commerce site. Shopify lets you build something that looks like a Fortune 500 company e-commerce site, but without needing to know how to do any code, without having to have any specific business acumen, knowing what cart optimization is, or shipping or taxes, or any of that stuff. You just pick the pictures, write the description, set the price, and let Shopify build you something that looks super professional, but also puts it on Instagram, puts it on Facebook, puts it on TikTok, because that's where people are shopping now. You need to show up where they are. That's how you do it. So with Shopify, you get easy to build, professional looking e-commerce. You get all the business stuff taken care of for you, and you get to show up where people are that want to buy your product. So if established in 2025 has a nice ring to it, sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/ArsenalVision, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/ArsenalVision, all lowercase, to start selling on Shopify today. That's shopify.com/ArsenalVision. Do you know, Phil? Is that
Indeed. And breathe.
We're back.
It's incredible. I mean, I can't do that, so fair play. I think you need to be American to do that.
Should you be able to do that? Should anyone do that? I don't know.
Yeah, definitely not. So yeah, thanks for that. And should we go on to some transfers, the real stuff that people care about? Forget Anfield. Forget Noni Madueke doing bits at Anfield.
No. I got to stop you. You're not gonna make us go on record with what we're expecting from, like, at least some kind of prediction. You're not gonna make us.
I was going to wait until the end, but if you want to go now.
Okay. No. My bad. See, there's me overstepping.
You know what? Let's do it now. Elliot, I'm going to put you on the spot first. How many goals are we winning by on Sunday?
I have to learn to trust the younger generation, Phil. I have to learn to put some faith in the younger generation here. You know what you're doing. How many goals are we going to win by? 10-0, obviously, but I am torn between 2-2 and 2-1 Arsenal. I don't see us keeping a clean sheet at Anfield. But obviously, I mean, Liverpool have just shown that they don't have that defensive resilience this year. I'm going to say we manage a 2-1 win. It's time to win at Anfield. I think we have the right players to hurt them. We have the right depth to overcome the injuries. I think they have some critical injuries that are going to be hard for them to recover from. And given their defensive frailty of late, I think if we can get a goal early, especially, or, relatively early, I think there might be some insecurity there, some frailty that we can expose. So I'll say 2-1 to Arsenal.
Okay, 2-1. Elliot's going 2-1. Tim, how are you seeing this one?
Yeah, I think 2-1 Arsenal. I think it's time. I think we've got the tools to hurt them, and I think it's just overdue. I think last season we shouldn't have won there because we were horrible in the first half and good in the second. But 2 seasons ago, I really think we should have won there, actually. And things. Well, they would have turned out very differently had we, because we literally lost the league by 2 points. But yeah, I just think it's time, and I think we've got the players to do it.
Interesting. I'm going to go 2-2. I think we're going to play really well and make chances and look the best that we have for a long time. But I just feel like at home they'll find a way to score a couple, even though I know we're the best defensive team in the league, which is fine. I'd take a point. And I'm not saying that we can't win. It's just how I'm seeing the game. So mostly positive considering we've got 3 to 4 injuries and to key players as well. So I think that's a really good thing. But yeah, we'll get some other predictions from Clive, obviously on Friday Night Clive. He'll have words of wisdom for us and tell us that everything's okay. So yeah, transfers. Let's get on to transfers because obviously the window is still open. Things are happening. Arsenal are keeping busy. Obviously, we had the Eza stuff last week. How has it only been a week? I feel like a million things have happened since then. But as I said, the window is still open. We've been linked with Piero Hincapié from Bayer Leverkusen, who also used the Spurs rescue hotline. So credit for him. It's a very dangerous time at the moment. Spurs loitering around. We might have to rescue Xavi Simons as well, but you can't save someone who doesn't want to be saved. I mean, Jakub Kiwior looks like he's going to Porto. There were whispers of Reece Nelson going to Crystal Palace. I think there'll be some other departures to sort out as well. Loans for young players and maybe others who couldn't snag permanent deals. Tim, I'm going to start with you again. Elliot Sting has been to ask how people rate the transfer window out of 10, but I think at this point I don't know if people can stomach another 9 out of 10 or 10 out of 10 debate. So I'll just ask you instead, take me through things from your perspective, how you're feeling about the additions we've made so far and whether you expected us to go this big, because it's not really very Arsenal doing what we've done this summer, but it's been quite a we're here and we're there and everything's on the table. And I think Arteta has kind of been so scarred by last year that we will never suffer at the hands of an injury again. So that's kind of what it feels like to me.
Yeah, I think what you can see and what we're getting to know about Arteta now is if there's a weakness from the season, like the sledgehammer comes out for that walnut, it's like, in 2022-23 when we challenged, quite well, but maybe we were a bit open. It was like, right, Declan Rice is coming in, 4 centre-backs, like that's not happening again. And the thing I'm really pleased about is I think 90% injuries wrecked last season. And listen, we're saying wrecked. We finished second and got to the Champions League semi-final, and that's wrecked, right? And I think sometimes we lose that perspective that we're still very, very good and actually coped pretty well in the circumstances. But what I really hoped is that Arteta and Arsenal didn't just sit there and go, well, it was injuries. What can you do? What they've done this time is go, okay, well, let's make sure, A, let's make that less likely with a much bigger squad. And B, if it happens again, let's make sure let's assume the worst, basically. And I'm really, really pleased with that. Like, there isn't a signing I'm dubious about or not pleased with. That's not to say, like, I think that, like, generally speaking, it's very unlikely that they're all going to be absolutely amazing signings, but we haven't made many duds. I don't think there'll be any of those particularly, but like some of the depth signings I really like as well. And we got that business done very early as well, like Mosquera, Kepa, And Norgard, I think they all make us stronger than we were last year. Zubimendi's such like that one keeps getting lost in the kind of fog. Like, I think that's such an important one for us, a massive upgrade, I think, on Thomas Partey and Jorginho as well. And obviously the Eza side, I think everyone had that same feeling about Madueke, which is like it, but if that's it, that's a different context. But I think, and different people reacted to that differently. Some people thought that and expressed it in a fairly conservative way. Some people went to the stadium with a tin of paint and like probably even some matches. They probably got talked out of doing that. Like, the range of reactions was very extreme, but I think most people had that feeling in some way. And now it's like, oh, Madueke plus Eze, yeah, that's really good. Like I said, the only thing that's, and this may be like a little bit of Stockholm syndrome because we never quite go that extra mile. I am a little bit concerned isn't the right word, that's overstating it. But when I heard like Kivior's going to go to Porto, I thought, okay, yes, like, fair enough. Like, he's at an age where he needs to play. We've got a good player that we've kind of turned into a sellable asset, if you want to Chelsea it up a little bit and disregard the fact that he's a human person. But first of all, how on earth have we got, like, we've got one player who's really sellable, good age, not a massive wage, and he doesn't want to play in the Premier League. Like, what? Like, we've got this unicorn player. It's like we finally got a really sellable player, and it's like, no, actually, I don't like London or the Premier League, and actually, I want to earn less money by going to Portugal. It's like, what are you doing, man? How have we ended up in this situation? But I kind of thought, okay, yeah, Mosquera's our Tomiyasu, can play at least 3 positions across that back line. And I kind of think 7 defenders, when a few of them are very versatile, is kind of enough. I do fear a little bit. It's such a fine balance between being deep and just having a little bit of redundancy. And I've really seen this. I've really seen this on the women's side, actually, where they've veered between the two. And what tends to happen when you're really, really deep, this might be famous last words, is you actually don't get many injuries, so you get far fewer. And then you've got people who are just sitting around doing nothing. And I'm a little bit concerned that it's like one too many. I would have been happy, sell Kivior for a good price, shake his hand, say thank you very much. We've got 7 really good defenders. And, look, maybe the worst happens and we get 4 defensive injuries and we're really unlucky again. I kind of think there has to come a point where you're a bit like, if that happens, the season's screwed anyway. And just avoiding that redundancy. So just that last little bit it's eating me a little bit. But obviously, like, in terms of grading the window, there's sales as well. I think we all understand there are reasons that Nelson, Vieira, Zinchenko, none of that was going to shake out before the last week of the window. Look at clubs like Palace, Fulham, West Ham, who've done basically nothing. Like, hopefully those will all shake out. I am quite glad, though, that Arsenal, and they're probably going to lose even more money on some of those deals because we're so stacked and everyone knows we have to sell. But I am quite glad that Arsenal have gone, screw it. If we lose a couple of million on each of those players, let's make sure we have what we need. And if we lose 7 or 8 million in the process, fair enough. So largely, really, really pleased. It's one of, I can't ever remember a window where I'm looking at our squad and thinking, I can't see anything glaring. And I like pretty much all of our players. So yeah, I mean, I can't really complain.
It's a big dog move, isn't it? Because you sort your own interests first and then you deal with the rest afterwards. And I know, Elliot, you've been speaking about this recently in a couple of podcasts about, Arsenal are still bad sellers. We can't get X out of the club, Sambi, Zinchenko, blah, blah, blah. But ultimately, it hasn't prevented us from doing the business that we'd like to do. So does it really matter in the end? Obviously, it's good for the balance sheet. Obviously, it's good for the books. But do you feel slightly different about it now, knowing that we've done what we wanted to do and that sales don't seem to be mattering so much anymore?
Yeah, look, what I care most about is that Arsenal builds the best possible squad capable of competing at the top for the longest period of time and continues to be able to do that. We've done it. Selling to say we're good at selling is not the goal. The goal is to build the best possible squad. Now, most of us, I think, learned some very painful lessons during the period of joint ownership where, the KSE didn't have complete control, and the Emirates era where we, net spend had to be roughly zero every year. So yeah, I cared about selling and selling well a lot because previously our ability to sell well directly dictated what we could bring in. But if that's not the case, then I don't give a flying fuck about what we sell. Like, who cares? Obviously PSR and SCC, like squad cost control for UEFA, matter. As long as we're within that, I could not give a shit. If Kivior should have been 33 million, but we're only getting 25, like, who cares? I used to care a lot because that might be the difference between getting the forward we needed and not, but we got everything we needed. So at least for right now, and until something materially changes, I think you need to be able to sell for a few reasons. I think you want to stay within those PSR and SCC regulations and be compliant. I don't think you want unhappy players sitting around at the club not making match day squads. I don't think that's good in general. I do think that eventually selling well will have some impact on what we spend. I don't think KSE will endlessly fund us the way they have this summer. But for right now, I just don't have the energy to be animated about it. Will there be a time where we look back and say not selling well meant that we didn't continue the cycle of renewal and injection of capital that we needed? Maybe. But for right now, it feels like looking for a reason to be annoyed to care about the sales, if that makes sense, because the squad is as complete as I've ever seen it. So I have absolutely no particular time for or energy for getting worked up about sales and what we recouped for players. I also think people just fundamentally don't understand the dynamics of the market in the sense that if you give a player $100,000 a week at Arsenal, that's a backup wage. You go onto the continent, there might be 10 clubs that pay $100,000 a week, period, to anyone. And the rest of them even pay. That. I know it sounds nuts, but so the minute you put someone on a wage that feels like a backup wage at Arsenal, not only is it going to be hard to get a fee for them, a lot of clubs just can't even pay him that full stop. Where's Zinchenko going? Who can pay his wage? You want to sell Martinelli to like a mid-table Bundesliga club or something for $50 million? They can't pay him $180,000 a week. So it's just a simple reality that why can Kwanzaa command the price he does? In part because he doesn't make anything. So unless a giant comes in for your players, that's going to have an impact too. So again, we could get into the dynamics of buying and selling, and could we be better at it? But it feels like nitpicking in a summer when we've done all the business you could possibly want the club to do to fully safeguard the season ahead and fully build out a roster of incredibly talented players across every position, across all the age ranges you'd want, to have a clear path to succeeding for every trophy that we're involved in. So, look, maybe I've gone a bit big here, but I guess what I'm saying is that I am over the moon with what we've done this summer, even down to the fact that the last sort of big fun signing, not the Hincapié one, we did a Hincapié scouting video, by the way. I think he looks great. Eze isn't just the piece we were missing. He's also the vibes. And I love that we got a player who feels like he fits that little bit of fantasy we haven't had in that zone, but also is a player that can inspire that kind of reaction at the Emirates. It's just a beautiful thing. So yeah, Phil, this is a window unlike any of us have ever experienced. But more than that, it's a squad unlike any we've ever experienced. And I'm very, very excited to see how far it can go in every competition. Yeah.
I think my slight pushback on the not selling well and what impact that has, I think that was seen last summer, maybe in January, maybe if we'd sold better. And one of the reasons this window's been so busy is because let's face it, we didn't do what we needed to do last summer. And last summer was our PSR summer, sell to buy type thing. When actually we did sell pretty well last summer, to be fair, like Smith Rowe and Ketia. We had a couple of good players there who were attractive to sell.
Ramsdale
Yep. As well. Yeah. So like 3 fairly young English players, basically, 2 of whom were from our academy, so Sharps, Pure Profit, etc. But, perhaps if we had a slightly better history of selling, we wouldn't have had kind of summers like that. And in some respect, we're playing catch up because we didn't do what we needed to do in those kind of windows. So that I guess that would be, I say, push back. But at the same time, as we've discussed before, Elliot, selling doesn't happen in isolation. I think what we're doing now, a bit like with Smith Rowe and Hincapié, we're pushing the level of the squad up, and when you do that, you'll have better players to sell. I am a little bit surprised, I have to say, that Martinelli just doesn't seem to have had any interest from anywhere. I am quite surprised about that. Like, maybe something will materialise in the last week, but to me, that's the kind of, like, okay, Martinelli might be getting pushed out here a little bit and we can sell him for good money, but for some reason we can't, which does strike me as slightly odd. But I do think it is something we're going to have to do slightly better. But I'm with you in terms of, like, it's not like the central tenet of my emotion at the moment. I think it's a marginal gain. I think as much as anything.
Yeah, I just want to come back across that, if you don't mind, Phil, on two things. I agree with a lot of that, Tim. One thing I'll just say with regard to last summer, it was such a quiet summer from the big clubs in general, and I don't know what happened there, but there may be some market forces or some variable that we're not as clued into as to why we've seen more activity from big clubs this summer on incomings than last summer. The other thing I'll say is obviously,
attack,
Yeah. The other thing I'll say is obviously the director of football changed, and so we don't know how much that influences things. We basically didn't have one in January, and last summer we had one who maybe was checked out or being marginalized or couldn't get on the same page with the group overall, and that may have had an influence. So difficult to know what to weight in terms of why things have shaken out the way they have.
I think the other thing as well is that I'm a little bit cognizant of that I think fans should ready themselves for, is that January, like, if we have to do anything in January, we'll have, like, the worst injury crisis ever encountered in football, quite frankly. And that probably kind of goes for next summer as well. And one of the things that Liverpool do really well is Liverpool had a quiet summer last year, but this year, Ekitike, Isak, we can get them, we go get them type thing. And one of the things that Liverpool have done very well, and I think this is part of why they've sold reasonably well, is, like, Liverpool look at the player. They don't just go and buy anyone. So when they didn't get Zubimendi last summer, they haven't signed anyone for that position since, because they wanted Zubimendi. It wasn't like, oh, we haven't got him, we must get... Like, they don't create as much redundancy, I don't think. And I think, I think that's a good path to follow. They've shown that. And I think, for people who are, like, addicted to transfers and stuff like that, like, I think something will have gone very, very wrong if January and next summer aren't pretty quiet. Like, I think this kind of has to be our squad now for the next couple of years, and maybe those ones who kind of fall off like lemmings, as it were, moving out and hopefully generating some income from those guys, so that when we do have to dip back in, maybe, in 18 months' time, we have to go big on a position or something, that we'll be able to generate something to do that.
I mean, Elliot, just to finish this, I'll piggyback onto Tim's point. Is there a world where we've got too much depth and quality? I can't believe I'm saying that, but are we risking not giving good players enough time and keeping them happy? Or is it simply, we want to win things, whoever fights the hardest and plays well enough for the shirt gets the shirt? Because I look at the defensive depth. Right back, Ben White can play there. Yuri Timber can play there. Mosquera can play there. Centre back, we've got Saliba, Mosquera, White, even Timber at a stretch. Gabriel, Calafiori, Hincapié potentially as well if he comes in. Then at left back, we've got Calafiori, Lewis Skelly, Hincapié again if he potentially comes in. That is not... I know 8 is usually the magic number for defenders, but there's a hierarchy within those 8 where you have your starters and your backups and your rotation guys who can slot in across the back four to help out when needed. But I don't see an obvious hierarchy there, and I think at some point there will be some people unhappy with their game time. It doesn't bother me because I'm fine with that, but Tim's also right in saying that it could bother some of the players, and I think that's an important factor to consider as well. Do you agree with that, or are you just kind of, we need to win, I don't really care who's a bit unhappy?
I'll say it this way. I'm glad you're hosting today, because if I had proposed that, people would have said, there goes Elliot worrying again.
I'm not worried.
Phil, come on, stop worrying, mate. What is going on with you, man? Is it something about hosting the ArsenalVision podcast? What is it? No, well, first of all, let's just be honest. Yes, a very big squad can cause issues with squad harmony and people being upset. But I'd much rather it be Leo Trossard upset about his playing time than Sambi Lokonga, right? I mean, someone's always upset they're not playing enough. If it's better players, that's good because it means you've got a better squad, right? Once upon a time, we were watching All or Nothing, and it was players like Eddie Hincapié and Sambi Lokonga arguing about not having enough playing time. And this season, it's going to be players like, potentially Hincapié, Mascara, Leo Trossard, Ethan Nwaneri. Better situation when the players fighting and banging down the manager's door to get playing time are better players. So I'm fine with that. I do think there can be a situation if a squad is too big and if the talent isn't clear enough where the manager struggles to land on the best group. Because the one thing I do believe, and this is where I will take a firm position, I still think the best teams know their best 11. And I know Clive is rolling over in his Barca Lounger or whatever he's in right now. But I do think the best teams know their best 11. Or if not their best 11, their best 13. I don't think teams that win stuff have a best 22. I don't think it can be that amorphous, right? And so you look at Chelsea, for example. I think one of the things that Chelsea have struggled with is just not finding the right alchemy of which players they have to use in which ways to really get the best out of a group that probably has a lot of talent in aggregate, but maybe doesn't have a clear 11 to put out there to get the best out of them. So, Phil, I'm not as worried about squad harmony, but there are two possibilities. One, in the name of trying to give players time, we don't create cohesion. And two, based on the simple fact that we have so much talent, maybe Mikel, it takes him longer to land on the right group. For example, 2 seasons ago when we hit 89 points, by the way, that team didn't really get very good until December because we spent quite a bit of time using Eddie and Ketty at striker and figuring out how we were going to use Kai. And then all of a sudden we found a group. And by the way, it was with Leo starting out on the left quite a bit, right? And it was with Kai up front. And that group got on a run and went bang. So I think we need to make sure Mikel knows who his best group is. But as long as he knows that, I'm not worried about the rest.
There you go. So direct all of your complaints to Elliot because he took that topic away from me. Right, I'll just finish this with a quick.
I said I'm not worried. What? Come on, man.
I'll finish this with a quick fire round. I'll ask both of you. Right, I'm going to give you 5 names, and I want you to tell me whether they'll be staying or going, and if they are going, whether it's on loan or permanently. Okay, ready? Jakub Kiwior.
Tim,
gone. Gone loan with an obligation.
Okay. Reece Nelson.
Gone loan with an option.
Zinchenko.
Gone permanently.
Oh, rogue shout. Fabio Vieira.
Gone on loan with an option.
And Sambi Lokonga.
Contract terminated.
Okay, Elliot, same questions. Jakub Kiwior.
Loan with a obligation, yeah.
Reece Nelson.
And that'll be to Porto, I assume. Reece Nelson, just a purchase.
Zinchenko.
Stays.
Fabio Vieira.
Loan, no obligation.
And Sambi Lokonga.
Driven to a farm upstate.
And taken round back, or
I think contract termination is a good shout. I think we probably find a loan for him somewhere, but if we can, I think we will terminate the contract. Seems like a guy who, even going back to the All or Nothing documentary that we referenced, hasn't necessarily been happy with his lot in life at Arsenal, and I don't think we need, to your point, I don't think players being a little unsatisfied is bad, but I think a player who's just openly hostile to the environment, doesn't want to be there, is not good, and that might be the situation there.
I think also what the Sambi Lokonga, I remember what I thought and what a lot of people thought when we bought him, it maybe exposes the fallacy of the low risk signing. Like him, and I know we largely got our money back on Tavares, but it wasn't really worth it, was it? I remember thinking, even if it doesn't work out, we'll probably get our money back and more. And actually, with these guys, it doesn't generally speaking. Like,
well, it doesn't work out for Arsenal. It works for everybody else except Arsenal, because Chelsea sign players from Basel and then they sell them for a club record fee for Villarreal. So,
but like, there hasn't even been talk of interest in Sambi Lokonga, and that to me suggests his agent is probably shooting for a contract termination. So yeah. So Elliot, you say Zinchenko's staying. I can see that. Are we going to get another riveting chapter of his autobiography?
We've been asked to do the audio book, so
that everyone's really going to relate to. There's a real everyman story there that I think will really tug at people's heartstrings, and that he should definitely do a chapter in that in his book.
Yes,
it's fine. Just get Clive to read it, and everyone will be hypnotized. So
that's actually a good point. That's a strategy he should impart. I just think it's a case of like, he is on a big wage. There are clubs that could probably use him, but they probably think better to get him on a free than have to try to pay money. Hard player to move on that wage, and to be fair, does seem like a player who's liked in the group. Mikel said he's like the funniest in the group or whatever. I think if he stays around, it'll be in a mascot role, but that's about it.
Yeah, I mean, Jakub Kiwior, for me, loan with obligation, that will get done. Reece Nelson will be a permanent, I agree. Zinchenko will stay, I agree. Vieira will be a loan with just an option, and then Lokonga will be a loan with an option as well. I think someone like Trabzonspor will come from nowhere and just take him for the year, and then he'll be out of contract. So, right,
no shock outgoing for like a Martinelli though, or anything like that. You don't see it.
There's nobody. It should have been a Napoli, a Bayern, or even someone from Saudi, but they've all looked elsewhere. So I don't know. It's going back to your point earlier. Who's going to be able to not only stump up £50 million, but pay him at least 150,000 a week? It's just not happening. So we'll revisit things next year. Tim, I wanted to ask you quickly about Hincapié, because I know you haven't had a chance to talk about him yet. Just what are your initial thoughts on the player? Have you watched much of him, either for Bayer Leverkusen or Ecuador, obviously, because I know you're quite dialed into South American football. I don't think he'll be a secret to a lot of listeners, but I don't know if people are dedicated Bundesliga watchers, for example. So give me your quick rundown on the player.
Yeah, so know very little about him. I've probably seen him play for Ecuador, but not exactly put a red ring around to watch. And, Ecuador actually are a pretty interesting team, but I won't go into that. I guess what's interesting about it is, I think, how it relates to Eze. And I think it says a lot about the fact that he's, I think, pretty obviously going to be our left winger. And, when you've got fullback options like Calafiori and Lewis Skelly and Zinchenko as well, like that, it really hints at like a different type of left back. I mean, what I've heard is that he can play the wide centre back in a back three, very Mikel defender, like can play the wide centre back in a back three or be a fullback. That's everyone has a type, and that seems to be Mikel's. But from what I understand, like a little bit more of an overlapper potentially, and Eze's obviously someone who comes in, or at least travels inside with the ball a little bit more. So I can kind of see the vision there. But like I say, four left backs, Jeremy, that's insane. Type thing. It makes me wonder about Lewis Skelly as well. Like, do they perhaps see him as a midfield option as well? But even that area is very crowded in the team with Rice, Havertz, Marino. Is that kind of left eight? Is he maybe seen more in the Zubimendi role potentially? So I think Lewis Skelly is the one I think about the most there. He seems to be the one with the most to lose, I think, from that signing, not least because Calafiori can roll in and be a centre-back as well. So it does make me wonder about that. But they did just sign Lewis Skelly to a contract. They must have had a conversation with him, about how they see him. So I do just worry about a little bit of redundancy back there, I have to say, not least because in that kind of conversation about redundancy, whatever else we're going to do around the team. I mean, Elliot, you're talking about like usually you fall on a group of 13 or 15 or whatever. I actually probably getting at the same thing. I think there's a group of like 7 usually in your starting 11 who basically play all the time. Rice, Saka, maybe Ødegaard, not as much now with some of the depth we've got, but generally most teams have those 6 or 7 guys who are like, if they're fit, they're probably starting unless like they're just deliberately being rested because they're knackered. And I think two of those guys are our centre backs. Like, I don't see a lot of rotation happening there, to be honest. So like, I see rotation on the extremities of the team, but I think generally your spine, I think Rice, Zubimendi, the two centre backs, Saka, the goalkeeper, obviously, they're going to play. So I don't see a lot of like rotation other than the two fullback roles, which is why I'm a little bit curious. I'm a little bit curious because it's bad news for somebody, I think, if he comes in, even with Akibi or Sale, and I'm quite curious as to who it might be.
I mean, Lewis Skelly was my kind of, it sounds harsh, but underperformer of the season in the season predictions, just because I thought he'd suffer from a bit of second season syndrome. I think they'll manage him a bit carefully now, because obviously it's not just what he does on the pitch. I think there was a lot of nasty noise around him off the pitch as well, so I don't really have an issue with him being pulled out of the limelight a little bit. I mean, for those who don't know about Hincapié, he's a kind of left-sided defender who can play at centre-back in a 3 or at left wing-back. He's just a left-sided defender, basically, and he's very South American. That's probably the easiest way I can describe him. I mean, the defenders from that continent in particular, and Tim can tell you this, seem to follow a very similar blueprint. Just think of Christian Romero and a couple of those guys. Very chaotic and unforgiving. Gabriel Heinze, a lot of parallels there. Brazil, Argentina, Colombia, Ecuador. There's a lot of chaos and physicality in those leagues, especially in the domestic leagues, but also the international football as well. But he's very aggressive, front-footed. He wears his heart on his sleeve and really values what defending means, I think, which is basically stopping the opposition from scoring. Elliot, you did the scouting pod with Clive. What were your main takeaways from that video, and where do you see him fitting into the group if we sign him?
So first of all, yeah, I thought it was an interesting scouting video. Enjoyed what I saw. Very front-footed, very aggressive in the challenge. A very confident passer at passes above expected in terms of his percentage of passes completed and the difficulty of the passes he plays. Has the big switch in his locker. I think he is, of all the left back options we have now, the most comfortable getting out wide and overlapping, putting in crosses. He's got a great portfolio of set piece contributions, both goals and final balls and set piece. So as if we needed more of that, he continues to power us up in that respect. There's definitely a little more blood and thunder in his game than there is elegance in his game compared to what we have. And again, I'm just going off the scouting video. It's not like I watched 1590s of him or anything like that. I think he brings different things. It is interesting. I think Clive saw a bit of Romero in him. I don't like that. Nope, don't like that. I called Romero Angry Mustafi, so don't want to hear that. But I think that's, just because of the aggression in the way he goes into the challenge. We don't really have, all of our defenders now, and I guess this is just true of football in general, it's a lot more stand-up tackling now and stand-up defending. You don't see a lot of going to ground. And Hincapié, I think, will go to ground a bit and will get kind of stuck in that traditional way. But yeah, I think he's encouraging. It is a weird one. I think we have to be prepared for the possibility too that some of the recruitment we've done is with an eye towards some departures that may be in our future that we may not want there to be, or may be a bit surprising. I don't know that you have Mascara and Calafiori and Timber and Hincapié and White and Miles if you think everybody's staying for the long term. So, that's something to keep an eye on. But yeah, I guess the quick summary is aggressive, pacey, good passer, good crossing, good set piece contribution, very front-footed, and I wonder if maybe, and this is a weird characteristic that all our left back now have, I think Calafiori and Miles both have it too, and maybe Hincapié too, can get caught jumping early and then getting spun in behind, sometimes misreading when to be front-footed and when to drop away. So that'll be one to see. But I'm encouraged by what I saw, Phil, overall.
I mean, ironically enough, I don't like Zinchenko as a 1v1 defender, but he was always excellent in the air, which was a very weird quirk in his game. He was like always in the upper percentiles of aerial duels. But yeah, I mean, we're going to have a super team. If we manage to bring him in and we get Kivior out, I mean, the defensive depth could be a bit silly by the time the window closes next week. And not just the defensive depth, by the way, the whole squad. So there are going to be some people not making matchday squads. There are going to be some unhappy people in the squad if they don't make appearances. But ultimately, we need to win, and we need to win now. So if we're lifting a title in May, or even better, a Champions League title in May, I won't care one bit if Hincapié has only made 10 appearances and he's not happy, because ultimately we will have done the job. So unless there's anything else you guys want to cover, I think that's more or less it for now. I know you're obviously going to record a Friday Night Live tomorrow, so we'll keep some content in for that. But any last remarks from either of you?
I would just say that, like, I'm incredibly excited for the season ahead based on who we have at our disposal. And I can't remember ever being more excited to see more of the players that we have available to us this season. I mean, whether it's Max getting a chance here and there, or it's where will Eza play, or, Nani developing, Gyökeres at the striker. Like, there's so many fun storylines. And if anything, last season felt like a slog because injuries robbed us of so much talent. I think we all knew we were just going to have to gut it out and grind it out. In a way, it felt all driven by the failures in the transfer window per se, because we knew we'd left ourselves short in certain positions. Those positions wound up suffering injuries, and the season felt over before it ever really got going. I am so reinvigorated right now to watch Gyökeres and Nani and Eza and Max, and is Ethan going to move into midfield, and the new defenders we brought in, and Zubamendi. I mean, what a breath of fresh air we have in central midfield now. So, yeah, I think, Phil, if you told me I'd be feeling this way when the window closed this summer, I don't know if I would have believed you. It is as excited as I can feel, I think, for a season ahead based on what we've got in front of us,
Completely agree. It's super exciting, and actually a lot of the issues we've had in recent windows, largely I think we've done very well in terms of our squad building and recruitment, but there have been a few issues. I don't think the last two, in terms of January and last summer, were very good at all. I think we've shown the league and Europe a similar face in terms of our attacking talent, and that's made us way too predictable. And these signings have just given us a boost, a shot in the arm. We're fun to watch. We can be a bit more unpredictable. We've added qualities that have been sorely lacking in attacking areas, such as ball carrying, speed in transition, shots. I mean, we're going to take so many shots hopefully this year as well. So I completely agree. That's all I can ask for from the club, is that they're kind of brave and bold enough to do that. And if we are going to spend a lot this summer in hopes of going for it, then let's absolutely go for it. So that's the main talking point from me. Tim, you want to finish us off here?
No, I think I'll just finish with the phrase everyone who's ever been on a Teams call is familiar with: nothing from my end.
Okay. Just going to try and share my screen here.
Do you see my screen? Can you see
Can you see that? Can you see that?
Do you hear me? Are you hearing me?
Everything's fine. We're good. So yeah, that's it for the Thursday main pod. For those of you thinking, where is Clive? I want to hear what he has to say about our trip to Anfield. Everything's going to be okay without Bukayo Saka. Friday Night Clive is tomorrow. So get signed up to the Patreon if you're needing your fix of Elliot asking questions and Clive swerving them before answering something completely different. As always, there'll be an instant reaction after the game against Liverpool on Sunday. Bonus content alert, Jim Daly from the 5-Year Plan podcast as well. Crystal Palace podcast will come on and talk all things Eza, basically, so keep an eye out for that one as well. I really like those opposition view style episodes because they offer you a perspective that you won't normally get. So otherwise, all that's left for me to do is to thank my guests. So Tim, thank you. Always a pleasure chatting.
My pleasure as always.
And Elliot, always fun, mate, and get me out of this chair before I get drunk on power. So
I hope you have me back on again soon. Thanks.
Yeah. And my name is Phil Costa. Thanks again for putting up with me for this episode. I mean, this could age horribly, but the vibes are good, guys. 2 wins from 2. The squad looks fresh. Everybody's smiling in training. I mean, what the hell? Are we doing Invisalign adverts or something? Because every picture I see of Eza, Rice, Zubamendi, they're all cheesing away. And more importantly, our mental well-being doesn't depend on the hamstrings of a 23-year-old. So that's a win in my book. So as always, be happy, keep smiling, sign up to the Patreon, keep listening, and we will talk to you after Arsenal 10, Liverpool 0.